Welcome, everyone, to Come Together, our free weekly webinar series at Duarte. We're opening our doors to show you our very own strategies and techniques for effective communication, virtual and otherwise. So each week we spend 30 minutes with some of Duarte's communication experts, talking through relevant topics, answering your hard-hitting questions, and taking you behind the scenes here at Duarte to see how we solve the toughest communication challenges of the world's top brands and thought leaders. I'm Doug Neff, Duarte's content director, and I'm your host. Last week, if you joined us, we talked about elevating your slide design game with Charity Canny, one of our art directors. This week, we're going to take a broader look at the virtual platforms you might be using. And I brought a special guest today. He's a returning guest, actually. You can see him back in episode, was that episode 2? It's been such a long season, I can't remember.
I think it was episode 2.
Cody Dishman is a content developer at Duarte and an accidental expert in virtual platforms. Welcome, Cody.
Hello, what's up, Doug? Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Hey, as we get started, is it cool if I do a shout out real quick to my son?
Oh yeah,
my son Ezra. There he is. Look how cute he is.
Oh, look at that.
He's 2 years old today. 2 years old.
Oh, that's awesome. Happy birthday, Ezra.
Yep.
Now, Cody, tell us how you got to be an accidental platform expert.
Oh yeah, sure. So it wasn't on purpose. But it just kind of happened because before coming to Duarte, I was doing a lot of training, a lot of facilitation, and as our business grew, a lot of the people I was working with were in different locations. So we just had to get good at doing those things remotely. And then eventually also started to lead our company's all hands meetings. And again, probably half of our participants in that were remote as well. So I just had to get good at involving people who were in a different location and really understanding how to use and maximize virtual platforms.
Got it. So it fell in your lap.
Sort of, kind of. Yeah, so I at least worked with it long enough to make a lot of mistakes. And so hopefully people will get to benefit from some of those. So I guess my first confession is from when I was leading those all hands meetings. I had actually just started leading some of them. And in January, we were doing a company kickoff, right? So big event. We had some big goals that we were rolling out to everybody. And it was my first time doing the company kickoff. So I felt a lot of pressure about it. I worked really hard on the messaging, worked with all the speakers. I was the MC, kind of getting people pumped up and doing transitions. We created some videos for that company kickoff. And, once it was done, as you're walking off the stage and seeing everybody in the room, it went great. Like, the energy was awesome. People were like high-fiving me, saying, way to go. To me, I imagine it in slow motion.
You were a rock star. Yeah.
It was awesome. And then later I just got back to my desk later that day and I had an email that said, hey, by the way, everybody who was remote had a terrible experience.
Oh.
It was like this really deflating moment where I was like feeling great. I was like, man, we did it. We nailed it. And then knowing that probably 40 to 50% of the company had a totally different experience. And that reminded me of this quote, which is, the medium is the message. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that before. And in this case, what my lack of experience or lack of thought about how we were using the virtual platform said to 50% of our company is, hey, we don't really care about anybody in our company besides the people who are in our headquarters. So that's not at all what we were trying to communicate. So that's why using your virtual platform well is important. It communicates how much you've thought about your audience and what they need.
I got it. And that's a great setup, Cody. Thanks. And I'm so glad that you had those experiences before you came to Duarte. Well, I think we'll spend about 20 minutes talking through the tips you brought for us, and then we'll turn it over to questions from our audience. So before we get started with your tips, we'd like to make sure we're actually receiving everyone's questions. So here's what I'd like. If you could leave us a comment wherever you're watching us about your own virtual platform pet peeves, the things that drive you bananas when you're on virtual meetings and presentations. Drop them in the comments there. We want to know that you're able to send comments to us. And while we're watching for those, that chat window that you have, wherever you're watching it from, is also the place to start asking questions. Our producer, Emily, as well as some other folks we have, Alexa, Kat, and Julie will be watching and monitoring the comment fields in all of our platforms that we're streaming on, and they'll tee them up for us at the end of the webinar. So some pet peeves are coming in. Bad camera angles for the presenter. Yes, being unmuted when you have all kinds of people making background noise. How often computers crash. We have some recent experience with that. Yep. Feedback from the mics. These are great. These are great pet peeves. We haven't heard all of these before. These are good. Okay. I think, Cody, it's time to jump in.
Yeah, let's do it. So most of us have been on these virtual meetings for years, right? And we're on them even more now. So why do they still make us miserable? How come it's not getting any better? Doug, have you ever heard of the OK Plateau?
I have not.
All right, so I first heard about it from a book by Joshua Foer called Moonwalking with Einstein. Great.
Oh, yeah.
But basically, it's the idea that once we've hit an acceptable level of confidence, we stop improving. So, for example, for me, I'm typing all day, but I'm not getting any better at it because, like, I've hit, for me, what I think is acceptable. So I'm not working at it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with our virtual platforms. We're all good enough. Like, we're getting on these meetings, we're meeting together, and we can make some progress. But it could be so much better. If we want to get off this OK plateau, we have to take some intentional steps to become experts. So that's usually two things. Number one is just by learning something new. And the second, and most importantly, you have to do deliberate practice of what you learn. And because these tools that we're using, they're not going away. Remote working, remote events, those things are here to stay. So we might as well get great at them.
Yeah, for sure. We trust us, folks. We are a communications agency, and we can tell you beyond even all of the virtual, birthday parties and things you're all having right now, virtual presentations, virtual meetings have not stopped in any way. They're still happening all over the place. So it behooves all of us to try and do some of that deliberate practice and get better. So, Cody, how are you going to help us all become purposeful experts?
Yeah, so 3 tips to get the most from your virtual platforms. We'll hit these pretty fast. Number 1, I want you to know what's possible. Number 2, interact with intention. And number 3, if you find that your platform isn't going to cut it, we'll talk about how you might go about exploring new platform options.
Okay, got it. Great. Let's find out what's possible.
Sure. Okay, so most of us stay on that OK plateau because we don't even know what's possible virtually. So, for example, at Duarte, we have a stable of really great workshops. And last year, we wanted to expand the way that we were offering these experiences. So we started a process of converting those in-person workshops to virtual ones. And when we started that process, I could see it on the faces of the facilitators. They weren't super excited about it.
Yeah, that's true. I'm one of them. I'm a facilitator too. And man, when you think about the great experience you have in the room with people, I just wasn't excited about making that whole experience virtual, but I was so wrong.
That's right. Yes. So when we explored all the different ways that we could interact with the audience, that we could actually engage the learners and how the facilitators could still make it a fun and interesting experience, they did get excited and they got on board, and it's been awesome. So here's the kicker with those virtual workshops. Like, when you get it right, you can really blow people away because you're exceeding their expectations for what a virtual experience can be.
Yeah, for sure.
So in our in-person workshops, we always got great ratings to begin with. But we're actually seeing even higher scores on the virtual workshops because the learners are so impressed with the experience.
Wow, that's great. That's great news.
So these are some of the core functions that pretty much every platform has. Even if this is all you have to work with, there's some creative ways that you can collaborate using just these functions, like using chat as a way to brainstorm, get a lot of ideas out there at one time. And also, it's a really great way to extract information out of your introverts.
Okay.
Interrupting can be awkward for some people. You can also use video to poll your audience, right? So, hey, have you ever done fist to 5? So,
oh yeah, I've done that. Yep.
to 5. So give me a 0 to 5 scale. Hey, how's everybody's week going? Give me a video, 4, 3, right? And then that gives you a way to involve your audience through video. Screen sharing, even if you can only do screen sharing and nothing else, you could pull up a Google Doc so that you can, in live time, see other people contributing all at once. So there's lots of ways to use even there. We'll get more into interactions here in a bit, but you usually have even more options than these core functions. So most of the virtual platforms that probably our audience is dealing with, they have extended functionality that we don't take advantage of, either because we didn't know it was there in the first place, or we just never tried to use it, so we didn't get comfortable with it. So at Duarte, we use Zoom and WebEx, BlueJeans, Skype, really whatever our clients need us to. And lots of these platforms have some or all of what you're seeing here. So you see breakout rooms and file sharing, annotation, optimized video streaming, Q&A, polling, and nonverbal feedback. When you get good with these functions, this is really your chance to surprise and delight people because they're not used to seeing them used well. So for example, in a client meeting, I wanted to do some brainstorming in small groups. So I used the virtual breakout rooms to put 2 small groups into different rooms, and then we came back together and shared ideas. And the client loved the experience because it was unexpected, and it kept everybody involved.
Yeah, for sure. That's a neat function, breakout rooms. If you've never tried it, it's something that you don't encounter much on virtual experiences. So it's surprising, but it's really effective too.
Yeah, and a lot of these functions that you see here, they're hidden. You have to go search for them if you want to bring them up.
Yeah, that was my next question. How do we find them? If it's not in our little toolbar, how do we go get these?
Yeah, so to know it's possible, we want you to explore your platform capabilities, and this goes along with that deliberate practice we were talking about. There's generally 3 places to look. Number 1, look at your profile settings. So those are your global settings. For example, breakout rooms in Zoom. You're not going to see that unless you go to your profile settings and turn those on.
Oh, so you actually have to sort of activate it in your account. Okay.
That's right. So also in meeting settings, usually when you create a meeting, you can edit that particular meeting. And that's another place where you'll find other interactive capabilities. So example, WebEx and Zoom, if you're trying to add a poll or add poll questions, you do that by editing the meeting. Then in meeting settings, so just set a meeting either with just yourself or with one other person and try stuff out. Like click around, figure out all your options because practice is really the only way to get better.
Yeah, and I think just that one tip is sticking in my mind, that all of those big settings that we show, those extended capabilities, you might already have them. And if you pay for your platform, you might be paying for all of those, but you have to go in and find where to activate them and turn them on. And I think practicing and setting meetings with yourself or with one other person and just clicking around on things, mashing buttons and seeing what happens is so important here.
Yeah.
Great.
Good.
Okay.
All right. Next deal. So the next thing I want you to do is just interact with intention. So here's the thing, right? Professionals, they don't want to be passive. So the best way to keep your audience engaged is to get them involved. And here's the main obstacle for interaction in virtual meetings. It's the audio. Audio is the bottleneck.
Yep.
If you have a virtual meeting with 20 people on it and you have one person doing the presenting, you really just have one audio channel, right? So you got 19 people who are in passive mode.
Yeah, that's true.
So Doug, another guy that I follow, an author, is a guy named Adam Grant. Have you heard of him or no?
No.
So he's an organizational psychologist, and one of the concepts he talks about is burstiness, which I think is a funny term. But if you think about like a writer's room for like Saturday Night Live or a sitcom,
oh yeah,
the idea that like ideas are free flowing and going all over the place, and that's kind of the energy that we hope for in those in-person meetings. And it's really hard to recreate in a virtual setting because there is just that one audio channel. So the trick is to get people involved simultaneously without using audio.
Oh, that's fascinating because, in our work at Duarte, we get to be in those rooms all the time where we have brainstorms internally or we have a meeting with a big group of clients. And there's sort of that crackling energy throughout the room. That's great. It's so fun to be in that. And when we go virtual, we all experience that energy just flatlines.
It's really, that's the hardest thing to recreate. But you can get people involved. So that's why you want to use things like chat, like polling, like breakout rooms, like annotation, because it's the best way to get the whole group active at the same time. So I want to dive a little bit more into annotation because it's really one of the best ways I've seen to keep people engaged.
That's great, because we just got a question that came in that said, what do you mean by annotation as extra functionality? So yeah, let's take a look.
Let's take a look at this. So annotation, it's where your participants can contribute by drawing on the screen, typing thoughts onto a slide, or they can put stamps or different things on the screen. So what you're seeing here, this is an actual example of how we've used annotation with our clients. We were working with a group of executives. We were asking them, hey, here are some different places where you might use story in your organization. Tell us where you've used it before. And then we had them reply with stamps. So it kind of almost like dot voting, you know, if you've ever been in a conference room or a workshop where you voted using Post-its. So here's what I love about annotation is that it gives your participants autonomy. Like and that's one of the big things we lose when we go virtual. Like your participants can now decide how and when to contribute without worrying about interrupting on that one audio channel. It really keeps people engaged. You know, we've done this with a 4-hour virtual discovery sessions, and you will see people just fill up the screen.
Yeah, because you can stamp it more than once, so people will have a lot of fun with it. And what you said before about burstiness, you start to see that come through. You know, you see in this example, there's a star way up at the top middle of the screen there. You know, that's someone just I want to put a star there, or I want to put a heart over here, and they can vote more than once, so they can pepper the screen with those. You start to see that crackling burstiness. That's great.
You got it. So 3 tips for virtual interactions. Number 1, hey, start early. Ideally, get people involved within the first 2 minutes, because that will prime them for staying engaged throughout.
Yeah, that's so important. And sorry to interrupt, but in this format, we only have one-way interaction, really, because we're streaming to some different platforms. But we do have that chat, that chat channel, and we always try to get people to send us some information in the chat within the first couple minutes of being live. So that helps us a lot to know who's out there and create some of that interaction. Good.
Absolutely. Second thing, right? When you can, mix it up. You don't want to rely too heavily on one form of interaction. If you just give people a billion polls during one meeting, that's going to get old real fast. So try different things. Number 3, add value with your interactions. There are some like really cheap ways to interact where it doesn't really serve a purpose, and people will get tired of that as well. So when you interact, just make sure it's additive for your audience.
I love that. Okay, let's go into your third category.
Yep. Okay. So if you've seen some things now that from different platforms that you might think, oh man, what we're working with now, it's not really going to work for our purposes, and you want to try something new, then we'll dive into this topic here. So I'm not going to tell you what platform to pick. You know, this isn't a buyer's guide. There's really too many variables, especially around security and cost. But I can give you some ideas or thoughts of how to think about it. That's
good, and this is probably a great place to answer the question we get every single webinar. What platform are we using right now? This isn't Zoom or WebEx. This platform is called StreamYard, and we'll put it in the chat for you, the name of it. And it's more appropriate for a broadcast setting like this because it lets us stream what we're doing to multiple platforms at once to share it with more than one place. Okay, Cody, so how do the rest of us think about picking our platform?
Yeah, so first thing you want to do is you want to think about how you're using it. Because there are different use cases that will lead you to different platform answers. So let's take a look at each of these individually.
Okay.
So if you're really just needing basic functionality, just prioritize ease of use because you want everyone to be able to use it without any hassle. You know, there's lots of free versions out there right now for really good platforms. Google Meet is free right now. There are free versions of WebEx and Zoom and just tons of options right now. But whatever
you want grandma and grandpa to be able to use it really easily to see the kids.
Get in, see everybody, use your camera, things like that.
Okay.
Yep. Second thing, collaboration. If collaboration is what's most important to you, you want to prioritize what the interactive capabilities are of the platform. And then you need to do your research because there is a pretty big variance. So for example, if you wanted to use breakout rooms or annotation, that comes standard with some, platforms, but it's a different type of license entirely for other platforms, and still other platforms don't have it at all. So first decide what you want your audience to do, and then find platforms that'll do those things.
Got it.
And then broadcast, so that's what we're doing now, right? It's more informative, and we're using a different platform now for this webinar than what we would use for workshops because we have different goals. Right, so that might be true for you too. But if you're broadcasting, you want to investigate your media options because you probably want it to be really good at streaming video, which may lead you to more of a streaming platform like this, StreamYard, or Twitch or YouTube Live. And if it's a public streaming platform, you can run into copyright limitations. So you just
really?
Oh yeah. Like one time, one of those all hands meetings, we were streaming on YouTube Live, and our IT guy, he didn't give anybody a heads up, but he rickrolled the audience.
Yeah.
It said that Rick Astley song, right? But anyway, so he...
Come on, you were going to sing it right there.
I was going to do it. But never going to give you up. Never going to let you down. But he did that, and it was hilarious, and it was funny. But because it was copyrighted, it shut down our platform. So, oh, geez. Like, we can't do that. So you just have to be aware of stuff like that.
Okay, that's a great tip.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here we go. So resources for choosing a platform. There are software review sites, of course, like G2, Software Advice. Those are really good for letting you know what the universe is out there. They're a little bit pay to play, so you want to be careful about trusting the reviews too much, but it will at least give you some ideas about popularity, right? It's kind of like the Yelp of software.
Yeah, and I think they also, like you said, they tell you what's out there. They give you some terminology too, and that's what I like what you've brought us. Like, people now know it's called annotation, or they know it's called breakout rooms, and they can ask for that by name when they're looking. Yeah.
Also, your personal network is going to be really useful if you're looking, because everybody's doing this right now. So so if you just put a call out on LinkedIn, you'll probably get some information back. Yeah, and lastly, if you have an IT person to lean on, definitely involve them in this search. They'll be an invaluable resource, and they'll keep you from stepping on landmines, security issues and things like that.
Yeah, the company you work at might have requirements that they'll let you know to keep you from tripping over. And you're right that this is such a rich time right now for the virtual platforms of the world. Everyone is probably using one or more virtual platforms in their daily life. So you're going to find lots of opinions out there where 6 months ago that might not have been as true as it is now. Well, I think it's time to recap, right?
Almost. One more bonus tip.
You brought a bonus tip.
All right. Bonus tip. Surprised you with it. If at all possible, use a producer. Shout out to Emily. What's up, Emily, our producer?
Emily's our producer. She's behind the scenes right now.
But if you're facilitating a big meeting or you're running a workshop, it's a huge plus to have somebody worry about the technical end for you.
Yep.
And we do this for all of our virtual workshops. It makes a big difference with the experience to our learners, and gives also the presenters a lot more confidence.
And we also have Alexa, Kat, and Julie monitoring all the different channels we're broadcasting on today. So folks that are leaving comments and questions in the chat, if they can reply and send you links. And those are things that I wouldn't be able to do while I'm hosting the webinar. So they're taking care of that stuff. Emily's making sure the whole thing stays afloat behind the scenes, and they not only make my job easier, but they make for a better experience for everybody. Everybody's watching. So thanks to all of our production team. That's great. Okay, let's do a recap, Cody.
All right, recap. So how to get the most from your virtual platform. Know what's possible. Interact with intention. Explore your platform options. And please, if you can, use a producer.
All right, that's great. Well, before we move to Q&A, and you can keep putting questions in the chat, we'll do our best to answer them. I know we have a lot of folks who want more help right now. And at Duarte, we have lots to offer. We'll have a blog post going up soon on this very topic, which will include the video from this webinar that you can share with all your friends. You can find, in fact, all of our Come Together webinars on our blog and on our YouTube channel, and probably other places that Alexa, Kat, and Julie will tell you about. We have 5 virtual workshops using all the interaction tools that Cody mentioned today, and they're really fun, surprisingly fun. visual story, data story, resonate, captivate, and our newest, captivate for virtual communication. So public speaking specifically for virtual communication. So 5 of those, 4 self-paced e-courses, 90 minutes to 4 hours, covering story, design, and delivery. And you may have seen that we're offering one of those e-courses for free to anyone who's been had their work affected by COVID. So if you've been laid off or furloughed or had your hours cut, we want to give you free access to one of our e-courses so you can upskill and get yourself ready for what's next. So 5, 4, 3 different packages of speaker coaching. That's one-on-one coaching for you or your whole team. 2 more Come Together webinars left in this series. I'll tell you more about that when we close. And one more opportunity to ask us questions today. Cody, let's get to it. Our questions. The next one we've got is, what is your best side-by-side comparison for different platforms? Do you have a resource that you go to that lines them all up?
Yeah, there's definitely a few places like this. Believe it or not, Wikipedia has a very detailed side-by-side comparison chart, but also those software review sites, G2, Software Advice, they have really good comparison options where you'll be able to see features.
Good.
So those are a few good ones. And also, they will differentiate between webinar platforms and virtual collaboration or virtual conferencing platforms. Okay,
great. Can you give some examples of collaboration platforms that have those interactive capabilities? I think you spoke to this already, but some specific examples of platforms?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely Zoom and WebEx, and those are the 2 that I have the most personal experience with. And you can do a lot with those 2. I would suspect most of the other major ones have it as well, although I can't tell you with any confidence. But if it were me and I was starting new, I would also look at BlueJeans and GoToMeeting and kind of all those other big ones to see what they can do.
Got it. Do you have any more tips on converting face-to-face training and facilitation to virtual? So we're talking about the conversion process. Right. You were intimately involved with that process at Duarte. How about 1 or 2 tips on how to do that well?
Yeah. So one of the things we thought about is we just thought about all the in-person interactions that we do, and we thought, okay, how many of these can we virtualize? What can we not virtualize? And then, so that's kind of what we started with. And then we made sure to make sure that we were giving some type of intentional engagement really within every 5 minutes or so. You have to just always get people's attention on those virtual workshops. So sometimes you have to amp up that interaction.
Yeah, you have to work harder. In a virtual setting, there's more of a responsibility on you, the facilitator, and the designer of the experience to create more of that interaction. I also noticed that you guys explored the things you can do in a virtual training that you can't really do, or that we weren't doing in a face-to-face. So things like the annotations where we put up a slide and we have them mark on the slide where they're at with something. We don't do that in a live space because having 30 people come up to the front of the room takes too long. But in a virtual setting, that's really easy to do. So there's interesting new opportunities that you have in a virtual setting too.
Definitely.
Yeah. Let's see. What's the question, Cody, that you most like to answer around virtual platforms? Have we answered it already, or is there anything sticking in your mind that you'd love to share?
Yeah, no, I think we pretty much hit it. I mean, these are the things that that I went through, kind of my process for the few different times that I had to pick my own. So I think most of the things that are important to me are in this presentation that we've done.
Okay, great. Well, I think we're about out of time here, so I'm going to wrap things up. We reached the end of another episode. I'd like to thank once again our producer Emily, as well as Kat and Alexa and Julie for their work behind the scenes. Cody, I'd like to thank you for being an expert, whether it was accidental or not. Thank Ezra for having a birthday today and adding a little brightness to our webinar. And thank you all, our audience, for tuning in. We love sharing all of these tips and getting to know all of you through this platform. So thanks for joining us. And don't forget to tune in next week when Nicole Lowenbrown will join us, and we will dig into the question of content, the writing that you do to share with people over virtual communication. Next Thursday, right here, same sandbox, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 Eastern. And in the meantime, be safe, be well, and thank you for tuning in. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Doug.